This is the DLR Cast, the essential podcast for fans of Diamond David Lee Roth. All right, folks, we are back. Heard you missed us. We're back. We are the DLR Cast, the only podcast by and for fans of David Lee Roth. It's been a while. I'm out of practice. As always, I'm Steve, along with my good friend, Diamond Dangerous Darren Paltrowitz. I'm going to stop stuttering anytime now as soon as I get this drink of water, but we're out of practice. It's been over a month. Darren, how are you? I guess you can kind of call this our year-end review, whatever you want to call it. We got some fun stuff to talk about. Great to see you again.
Likewise. Not bringing politics in the mix, but people, whenever there's a presidential election, they use that measuring stick of, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I'd say the theme of this episode is, as David Lee Roth fans, are we better off than we were a year ago at the end of 2023? I think we're going to see some yeses and some nos with all that.
Well, I'll tell you, as far as the last time that we spoke, I mean, a couple episodes ago, we talked that it looked like Dave was going to be on vacation for the quote unquote vacation, whatever that entails, through the end of the year. And of course, that vacation dovetailed nicely with the launch of and the subsequent publicity onslaught of Alex Van Halen's autobiography, tribute to Eddie, the book Brothers, which we talked about in length here, which everybody in the Van Halen world has talked about at length. I want to get a couple opinions from you on that as far as where we see things. I mean, I know we talked about the book. We talked a lot about the book and all that and what Alex said about Dave, and there was some great press. I don't know if you saw the Anderson Cooper interview. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. First, right up front, I got to give huge props to Dave here. Let's give him huge props.
Wait. I want to hear this.
All right.
I want to hear something positive about it.
All right. I want to hear props. Congratulations. I'm not dragging him at all when I say this, but 8 months ago, or 9 months ago, whenever it was, in light of all those embarrassing, and I'll say it, embarrassing, legacy crushing asides about Wolfie and all this other bullshit. And if you look back, even 2 years ago, about I'm the guy who designed the Frankenstein guitar, all this craziness that left us many an episode scratching our collective, receding hairline heads here going, what the fuck? I got to give him props because amongst all the publicity for the Alex book, Dave was exceptionally quiet. If you told me it was going to be this way a year ago, I would have been like, oh, he's going to do all sorts of this crazy shit. Who knows what's in this book? And he's going to, there's going to be something there. Right? He doesn't want the spotlight to be too much, especially if it's bad. If the spotlight shines on him in the bad way from whatever is in the Alex book. And of course, I thought the Alex's book was very kind and very complimentary to Dave, all in all. And which makes me wonder, I really think Dave, 6 months before the book was ever published, there was ARCs, advanced reading copies going out to press. Some people had these things. That's just the way the industry works. I am sure I would bet you Dave read this early. Maybe that was part and parcel for the silence. Maybe he just figured, well, it's a good time to be quiet. I am going on vacation. Here's another LA River Yacht Club video. Here's Panama video or Bubbles, whatever the hell that is. But I'm serious. I want to give him props for keeping quiet and not crushing the legacy anymore. That's a true compliment.
I never thought of it that way. I would say you're right about that. I'll give him credit for that. But that is one of the only positive things I can say about Dave's 2024, because he started it. It was January, I believe, that he came out with the Wolfgang offense. They kicked my accountants off the stage stuff. Right. Eddie got divorced because he was watching this kind of adult video and Eddie was broke and all those things that we could pretty much one by one go, that's not true. That timeline doesn't line up. The Sportsman Lodge saga, etc.
Right. You did your due diligence. We sliced this up a lot. I thought we were careening towards a train wreck of weirdness coming out from Dave around the publication of Alex's book. And thankfully, mercilessly, it didn't happen. Happily, it didn't happen.
That's how the year started off. And then if you look at how the year continued, we didn't get most of the things that were promised to us. So if you remember a couple months later, the whole Dell the Stalker episode.
Oh, right. Yes.
where he said something like, "I'll be checking in every day on this one," and then there wasn't one follow-up piece of content on that whole thing, and I unfortunately had to use my investigator's background to poke holes and go, "That's not true, and that's not true," or is this all a detective series? That was, I think, your thinking that this is a character or a detective series that he had planned.
It sounded like that to me. I mean, I just think, Lord knows, the the reality versus fiction with Dave is extremely blurred. I mean, is it some
Yeah,
sort of a deep fake jujitsu?
deep
Or
fake.
is it just spur of the moment Dave wackiness? Sometimes it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, so we have that and the period where he was podcasting, criticizing all the people in the $96,000 or $92,000 dispensary bill. That kind of thing overshadowed a lot of good Dave stuff because, hey, it's normal these days, unless you're Elton John, it's normal to glorify marijuana these days. It's a very, very mainstream thing because it's been decriminalized in a lot of places. But to out yourself as being that much of a wake and bake person also makes the general public think less of you. They think less of your decision making and your logic. Because for years we've talked about how Dave doesn't follow through on the things that he says he's going to do. Does that feed into the stereotype of a wake and bake person? I would say it does.
Well, yeah, it answers some questions. It confirms some suspicions. It gives you
Yeah.
some reasons why things might be so wackadoodle in Dave's world. So, but
Yeah.
let's talk about content or lack thereof, or what little bit we've got, because there were a couple interesting things when I dig into it a little bit. So there was a couple oddball videos, the LA River Yacht Club. One of
Yeah.
the last LA River Yacht Club, the music bed on that was Giddy Up, which was one of the songs from the
Oh,
John 5 sessions.
okay.
What do you know about that?
I have a bonkers small world connection to that Giddy Up video.
Oh, give it up.
Okay.
Giddy up. Let's go.
Well, Giddy Up, if I have my timeline correctly, Giddy Up, we knew that the John 5 album existed, but we didn't really know what it was. So when it was in the background as an instrumental of a Roth show thing 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't know, hey, that's Giddy Up from the John 5
At the
stuff.
time. And this was before
And
those tracks were ever put out. Because remember, there's about half a record
yes.
out on Spotify, and then that dried up and stopped. So that's one of the what, six tracks or so that I'd have to check my playlist I made. But that was one of the six tracks that got dribbled out there with no appropriate promotion, mentions,
None.
anything. John 5 didn't say anything about these songs. Certainly there was no credits. Dave never said who was on it, which always drives me nuts. I mean, nothing
So
like thanking the folks that helped you get to the dance, for God's sakes. Who helped bring it home. But
yeah,
that's
so that was the first look at Giddy Up. The second look was, I believe it was an instrumental in the background of the Roth Project comic, which we still know almost nothing about except what our Ink the Original Insider told us that it was simultaneously going on.
right.
And then I guess it was 2021 where we finally got Giddy Up as a with the lyrics and vocals properly released but not promoted.
Right.
So he reposted Giddy Up a few years later with him mountain biking or whatever you want to call that, riding around the hills, and it said Boots by Rocket Buster. Okay,
Hmm.
so Rocket Buster is tagged in that posting.
This is
And
from a couple years ago. This isn't the video recently where it was them racing around.
the
The video that came out recently is them. It looks like it's obviously Southern California, but it almost looks like Bay Area in parts where they're biking. It's not the other LA River Yacht Club stuff was in the actual LA River
yes,
basin there. These are like seaside community. If you've seen this most recent one with
yes,
Giddy Up.
this one that's from 8 days or 9 days ago,
Right.
where it tags Rocket Buster
It
Boots.
did. I didn't even see that. Okay, thank you.
And so Rocket Buster is this high end custom boot maker in El Paso, Texas, that I had the pleasure of touring the facility of last year, like a year and 3, 4 months ago. One of its top clients is Stallone.
Okay.
And when I say that it's high end cowboy boots, I mean like 15 grand and up. It takes more than 6 months. You name the A-list celebrity who has their country fetish or their Western fetish, they've made the boots. So I had the pleasure of a year and change ago going to El Paso as a guest of the city as a travel writer. And they, of course, want to go, well, here's how our city is significant to the world. So they gave me an appointment to go there, meet the team, meet the founder, etc., at that place. So I was looking at wall art and I saw they had this novelty machine and it had a logo that looked exactly like a Little Ain't Enough's devil on there. So
Really?
I asked the founder of the company about that. I said, that's exactly like a David Lee Roth album. And she goes, "Oh, I used to know Dave. When I used to work with," and I think she said Nicole Miller, the designer. She's like, Dave always came to the office all the time. He would just hang out there. One time at a Christmas party, he did a strip tease for us.
What?
I didn't ask about that. And ultimately, she was going, "Oh, so what's Dave up to?" And I told her about my book, which was coming out in a couple of months. She's like, "Oh, that's very interesting. That's very interesting." Boots by Rocket Buster. So I don't know if that led her to go, let me reach out to Dave. I don't know if I instigated that or that's just a big coincidence
That's
that,
that's that's really weird. And why that would even be tagged there?
yeah, it's not like he tagged the bike or the bike accessories company or the particular neighborhood or the tourism
Right, right.
council or who shot the video, just the boots.
So I
Because,
got another.
Steve, when you go cycling, don't you do it in cowboy boots?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Of course. All the time and a windbreaker and parachute pants. Who
Yeah. So
doesn't?
sorry for that sidebar, but yes, Giddy Up is content that we saw.
So, yes. So, but here's another mystery for you. Maybe you know this. Maybe you can figure this one out because I caught this recently. So, a couple days ago, we put out, I think it might be the most recent video, was it was about 2 minutes worth of Panama re-recorded. And
Yes.
what struck my eye on that was he's dancing. At first glance, I'm like, okay, is this just done in his big dance studio room or whatever? But if you look at it,
Yeah.
and it says Panama Roth Band. It was November 30th. But if you look at it, it looks like it's on a soundstage. There's a lot of big
Yes.
videos, a lot of big spotlights. There's the big video screen behind it with some interesting graphics there of like tractor pulls or whatever. And it's what we know. It's the re-record sessions with his then band. What was interesting on it, at the very end of it, all of a sudden pops up, "Don't love me, rent me."
Yes.
What
Yes.
does that mean?
I've asked some people and they think that he's trying to push for more corporate gigs. The way that he was doing those, why am I blanking on the name? What's the corporate band that has Steve Stevens and
King of Chaos, or no, that's
that was where it shot off from. Kings
Matt
of
Sorum, Steve Stevens,
So originally it was Camp Freddy. Then Camp
Gilby
Freddy
Clark,
broke
maybe.
up
Yeah.
into Kings of Chaos, and then the Shrinky Dinks. It was the second one that had
Robin
Mark
Zander
McGrath.
sings with him sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that one is relatively over, or at least Matt Sorum split from them. So this is the one with Billy Morrison, Billy Duffy from the Cult
Yes.
sometimes, Navarro, the guy who plays in Good Charlotte. They have those people, and then the alternating lead singers is usually Mark McGrath, DMC, D. Snyder, that whoever does their three hits. Uh,
Right.
and I'm not saying that in a dismissive or disrespectful way. This is the corporate circuit that you and I have talked about a lot
Right.
on the show over the years. It's why wouldn't you take that money?
Right. Okay. So there is a corporate circuit, right?
Royal Machines, that's the name.
That's yes. Thank you very much. Yes, and that was the last. That was the when Dave did. I think it might have been Dave's last live performance. Wasn't that the backing band in Vegas for what was it? The Home
Two
Depot gig?
two shows in Vegas. One was Home Depot, and the other one I forget was Intel or Oracle. It was another tech kind of company at the same exact arena. Both times it was the arena inside Mandalay Bay. And the irony was his residency that he canceled was supposed to be Mandalay Bay at the House of Blues.
Exactly. Throw in the shoes and then take them back. Apparently.
Yeah, so I think that that's what this is to show that he can still do it, which is debatable because you have a voice crack within the first two lines of Panama on that.
That's recorded in the studio live apparently.
Yeah,
And the video looks very recent, if I had to guess.
yes.
So he's moving well, and he looks great. No surprise, he's got hair on his head again. So I mean, certainly you can make the argument he doesn't look 70 years old. I mean,
No, he's moving fine. He looks great. Most of us wish we were in shape like that. It's just he's not taking the vocals very seriously. He's thinking that the smiling makes up for the lost notes instead of going take two. Let's try that again.
yeah, it was an interesting video to watch. I was I guess not surprised it came out, but just I mean, November 29th, Giddy Up. Oh yeah, there it is. Boots by Rocket Buster. I did see that. And then November 30th, Panama Roth Band. I mean, you know, it's I, weird stuff as usual.
Well, this is my mini theory on the whole thing. The first part of that is that he's trying to prove that it doesn't matter who's behind him in the band. That's the rent me kind of thing,
Yeah,
and that's why there's no musicians on stage with him. And the other thing is Gene Simmons has lately been doing this campaign of going, all I do is I show up with the bass pick and everything is provided to me. Have you been reading these Gene Simmons interviews?
I've been trying not to for just because my eyes can only roll so far, but he has been doing actual tour dates and he has a regular band with him going out there. And the set lists have been really, really cool. And the band's been playing with him for a while. I've been watching a lot of videos overseas. He still sounds good. I think he's full of shit when he says he makes more money on these solo gigs than he ever did at Kiss. Come on, man. Bullshit.
No way. And I may be going to one of the shows, the Long Island, New Jersey ones, but let's just say the tickets aren't selling so quickly. Uh,
Interesting.
and he might be charging more for tickets, but the way that they calculate concert tickets for normal venues is gross potential, which is average ticket price times this, the capacity of seats you're selling. And if these are 1,500 cap rooms and, let's make up a number times $100 as the average price, it's not like the venue's going, sure, Gene, here's $100,000. Whereas what that he was making per night as a member of Kiss was well over $100,000 a night
Yeah.
before merch.
Yeah. Oh, please. I mean,
So
come on. That, like I said, my eyes can only roll so far.
yeah, so I think that Dave has always kept tabs on Kiss and vice versa. Dave's autobiography is very critical of Gene Simmons. He alleges that Gene would leave tickets for everyone in Van Halen for the show except Dave, that kind of thing. And
Hmm.
Gene forever goes, I was the original manager or I discovered Van Halen. He does that stuff too. So I think that Dave is paying attention to that Gene thing and going, wait, I can do that too, where I just show up and the whole show is behind me.
That's logical. I mean, it's kind of makes sense. I mean, listen, all these guys have a limited time frame, limited window left, right? I mean, so if they're, I like, there's a part of me, I really think Gene loves a paycheck at this point, and not to get too far on that side road, but I mean, the guy can still sing, he can still play.
Yes.
I think he's doing it because he wants to get out there and play. I
I think he
mean,
wants to get out of the house
he's
because
having fun.
Gene doesn't have any hobbies, and Dave is the exact opposite. Where
Right. Too many hobbies.
Yeah, Dave has too many hobbies. He picks his 1 to 2 languages he's going to perfect, his 1 to 2 instruments that he's going to learn the basics of, the 1 to 2 physical activities that he's going to immerse himself in. That's just kind of how Dave goes. He doesn't stick with the same friends for 20 years. He has the same friends for 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I detoured that whole thing. So
No.
Panama video, the Giddy Up video. I don't remember the most recent thing before that. Was that the Dance the Night Away?
It
Just
may have been that, or there was some weird thing, Bubbles, where it was some instrumental stuff for him dancing. Was it Dance Night Away where he was dancing, and then there was the black woman off the side there that was just kind of like the hype woman almost. Do you remember that? And
there was that.
for a minute, I thought that was the woman who many, many episodes ago we had on here who was in the Eat 'em and Smile video.
I wish that were, but
Wouldn't that have
no.
been awesome?
But
Wouldn't that have
the
been awesome?
the other woman in that video who's only in the last 30 seconds, somebody was saying that that was Tony Basil, which would be theoretically very possible.
Dance the Night Away. Yeah, I'm just pulling that up now. That was back in October.
If
Yeah,
that were Tony Basil, that's intriguing to me. Age appropriate, that person looked like what how old Tony Basil. Do you know who I'm talking about?
yeah,
Tony
oh yeah,
Basil?
yeah. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. Tony Basil. Let's start a
Well,
rumor. Let's start a rumor. Maybe they're dating.
but not only that, top choreographer for decades. So basically,
Right, right.
Austin
Oh yeah,
Powers and anything that looks like it's 60s go-go dancing is Tony Basil. Probably was the choreography person on that. So it looks like it's her in the last 30 seconds. And if so, so many questions. Like, did
yeah.
Tony Basil choreograph that weird bonkers routine?
Yeah, I'm just scrolling back here. I'm looking at just trying to figure out. I mean, no rhyme or reason to the videos he put up. Nothing could have stopped us back then anyway, back in October. I put a bunch of paintings with some, minute little uh, uh w with some acoustic stuff. I'm assuming it's him playing.
Yeah.
It's Demons in My Blues was one. It's Not Just Me, The Daily Catastrophe, like minute videos. I mean, they're not even Facebook shorts, they're posts. They're not even YouTube shorts. Endangered Species was another with some paintings on. So that was like three or four in a row. I'm like, okay, well, now we're back to the paintings again. And, and I think those all came out. I'm trying to remember when was what was the October 5th? When was the Alex book published? What was the published date?
It was around
Yeah.
then. Yes.
So, I mean, so he's had some stuff coming out. No rhyme, no reason, no who knows what. I mean, only one that really looks recent is that Dance the Night Away, and then the Panama one we just spoke about. So I want
Yeah.
to take a quick sidebar here and just give super props and make sure people check out the Mojo Dojo YouTube page where you can get your very own Dave TV ornament, which is
Yeah.
super cool. And there's a little video our man put up there showing how he makes them, which is cool. And then when that popped up almost 2 weeks ago, I started watching some other videos like I always do. And I was like, oh, yeah, he did. Our man Ramsey's put up a cool video from Mississippi Power.
Hmm.
And then 3 months ago, Black Sand from the DLR band album.
Yeah.
And some of those have been getting a lot of views. And then Baker Street 4 months ago was like 209,000 some odd views. So, I mean, this guy's
Yeah.
getting more play than,
Then
than
Dave
most
is.
of Dave's videos.
Yeah, so you have that, and then the WDFA Facebook group that Scott Yeager runs,
Woo, man, I
which
can't keep up with all the posts on that thing. There is some great stuff on there.
and lately Eddie Anderson has been posting a lot of Van Halen related photos that no one has ever seen. So
Yeah,
between
it's a
Ramses,
treasure trove, man. It is a total treasure trove. That WDFA, and I'm forgetting what that stands for again. Refresh my memory.
we don't F around.
We don't F around. That's right. That's of course. How do I forget that?
Yeah, so you see, the greatest Van Halen content continues to not come from Van Halen. And you could say that 1991 Van Hagar era live album that Rhino just came out with, I would assume Van Halen did not have that in their possession and Rhino or Warner Brothers did. And that's yet again somebody besides Van Halen having the good stuff.
Yeah, that made me a little bit curious. That was interesting.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do, because we're kind of light on Dave news because he's allegedly on vacation and all that, is to kind of recap what everybody seems to be up to at the moment, which helps me debunk why I now believe that the Eat 'em and Smile reunion is not happening, despite the initial person tipping me off that it could have been happening.
Well, in light of also, don't forget too, it's you've got and the joke and my joke is you've got two David Lee Roth guitarists touring together in 2025. Of course, Satriani wasn't really a
Yeah.
guitarist per se, just for a few rehearsals apparently. But boy, what I would have given to have been a fly on the wall for that one. But so Vi and Satriani are going out together, which means Sammy's tour is basically done, which was incredibly successful from what I know from 2025, 2024. So Satriani and Vi, but they put out some music together. So
Hmm.
those two are going to be together. I don't think the Eat 'em and Smile reunion is going to be happening now.
It looked like it was based on some intel that I heard and some coincidences, but Vi is also pushing a G3 reunion
Right.
live box set. So I expect that as many years as he's capable of doing it, we'll get a Vi G3 thing. And he was just on the road for months with the Beat, which was the King Crimson thing with Danny Carey from Tool and Tony, what's his name? The guy who plays bass with
Tony
Peter
Levin.
Gabriel. Tony
Tony Levin. Yeah.
Levin and Baloo? Was it Baloo or Fripp? Who's the other guy that's in
Eight.
it?
Well, what eight was? I think it was Adrian Blue. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think someone will correct us, but yeah, but you're in that same ballpark.
yeah, so I mean that's what Steve Vai is up to and Satriani. Billy Sheehan, one of our great listeners, I don't know if he wants his name said, but let's just say he's in Norway and he's an excellent musician. He directly asked Billy Sheehan, "Hey, what about the rumors of him Eat 'em and Smile?" And he showed me a DM and he's like, "Nothing I've heard of." So Billy Sheehan flat out denied it. But he looks to be gigging, even though Mr. Big is over, he looks to be gigging regularly. He was just at some big event in his hometown of Buffalo a couple days ago. Billy Sheen's keeping busy. Probably going to do a lot of clinics, I assume.
Well, Sheehan's one of those guys too, where he's got so many side projects
Yeah.
and different bands. I mean, that's one thing about all those guys that I love is that how, which I wish Dave did, and Sammy certainly is, but so many of these guys, they're active in so many different things. They're putting out recorded music. I mean,
Yeah.
Billy Sheehan's doing, Steve Vai's out there doing King Crimson cover bands and, doing the G3 thing and putting out a record a couple years ago. Sammy's doing his thing, which is almost everything Sammy does is something where I go, well, Dave could have set this blueprint, this template
Yeah.
25 years ago, for fuck's sake. You got that. You got Sheehan, forming super groups every other minute with Bumblefoot or somebody else, or,
Winery Dogs.
Winery Dogs, of course. Richie Kotzen just put out a record. I mean, there's so much great stuff out there. It's like, it drives me nuts because I'm like, Dave should be, could be. It's too late now, I think, but should be, could be in this mix. You know what I mean? So,
And then the Bissonnettes. There are so many
oh,
Bissonette related musicians and activity things that we talk about. Greg is still with Ringo.
right. Yeah.
Greg, I didn't know this until I looked this up. He looks to have recently launched a podcast called The Song in a Day Show, where him and a couple of other people analyze particular songs. I didn't know that. Then he posted his daughter, Mary Bissonette, and her Boston-based band Villa Kula just put out their first album.
Wow. I know
There's
Matt's got a ton of credits. He plays on a lot of pop stuff and different things and it's a bunch of different credits. I think most people, 99% of the people don't know how much he does.
Do you know which Steve Roth approved band Matt Bissonette is currently in?
Mm. And right when I was saying what I was saying, I was stumbling a bit because there's a band recently where I went, "Oh, he's in that," and now I can't remember.
Well,
Damn it.
he's in the not REO Speedwagon.
Oh, as I posted on Mitch LaFon's Facebook page the other day, why don't he just call this the Kevin Cronin REO Speedwagon experience? Because it's basically the same guys in the last iteration of REO Speedwagon, sans Bruce Hall. That went down really ugly and nasty. It's like, come on, man. You couldn't wait a couple weeks. That's just bullshit.
I think it is the best FU I've ever seen in a band thing where he not only took the same exact lineup that had been out and then wound up on the Styx Don Felder summer tour. So
Right.
in other words, he wound up with the same payday and owning it and just putting one guy out of work.
Yeah, and what I love about it too is that didn't he put out the press release saying, "I'm sad to say the band has come to an end," and everybody's
Yes.
like, "What?"
Uh,
Bruce Hall, Bruce was like, yeah, I mean, had to come fire back with his own press release was like, "This isn't what I wanted, but apparently, this is what's happening."
Yeah. So Matt Bissonette, extremely underrated because besides the Roth, besides his own band on the major label, he was Elton John's guy for probably what the last 15 years of Elton John on the road playing bass with that. So if you can do Dave replacing Billy Sheehan, Elton John, And you can also do REO Speedwagon. Clearly, you're capable of a lot of different styles and tempos and all that. And I
Right.
don't know if I shared this on the podcast, but over the summer, I went to see Train because they were out with REO and Yacht Rock Review. And I got comp tickets and a photo pass. And I just, I go up for the two or three songs and shoot some stuff for my social media and the article. And
Sure.
I was wearing a Mr. Big shirt. And Matt Bissonette was talking to me as he was playing. And so, he's playing the whole show, but
Right.
he's like, hey, like while he's playing for Arias here, and he's going, you play guitar? Like, yeah. Like during the show. That's a great band. Like, what, aren't you doing a show?
The funny thing is, you interviewed him before when they had their Redcoats album, right?
I did. I've emailed things with him because he clarified some Roth stuff for me because it was never very clear about when Billy Sheehan left the band versus when Matt Bissonette came into the band versus when Matt Bissonette left again. And what I was able to piece together is Sheehan played on Skyscraper. They used some of his vocals for the tour, but Matt Bissonette was on the tour. He played
Right.
on A Little Ain't Enough, but he wasn't on the road for A Little Ain't Enough. See, he did,
No, he was not. I saw that one of the shows on that A Little Ain't Enough tour.
and what he had told me over email was it's kind of like Dave just decides who's in the band and who's not in the band, and that was just kind of it. It wasn't a bad breakup or anything like that. He doesn't hate Dave. It's just like that was my gig. That was no longer my gig, and that was kind of
Right.
it.
Which, looking back a little bit, I mean, if you're Greg Bissonette, you're like, fuck, I would have loved to have been out on the road with my brother, for God's sakes. We played on the record together.
For
And
sure.
why wouldn't you keep him? What the hell? Why didn't, maybe, what's his name? I forgot the name. Was it who was played bass back then? Wasn't he in Hardline? Todd,
Todd Jensen.
Jensen. I was gonna say Jenkins. Yeah, I mean, did he come cheaper than Matt Bissonette back then? Maybe.
Todd Jensen, way under the radar success.
Oh, real, yeah, true. I'm with you.
It's hasn't he been back in Journey for 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, because there's another band where they all hate each other, all sorts of legal shit. And Ross Valerie said, it's my band. And Neil Sean said, fuck you. No, it's not. And then Jonathan Cage said, fuck you both.
And then meanwhile, Steve Perry is left and right shooting down usage requests and then
Right, right,
angering all of them. So
right.
it's always funny that the most like love song oriented bands are the ones who are least likely to get along. So if you look at the lineup changes in Toto, it's all these love songs,
Right.
and they can't ever have the same lineup for two albums or two tours in a row.
It's just pretty much Steve Lukather, right?
Well, now it is. There was years where it was clearly like David Page. How do you say his name? Dave
Yeah,
Page?
I know. I can never figure Pate. I always thought it was Page, but
Page.
I
If,
could.
if you have your your
It
Hasidic
means
roots.
it means lead singer in Yiddish. So
Yeah, I just I kind of think it's funny with a lot of the rotating lineups, and there was my rant that Matt Bissonette, that's what he's up to these days. From his era, Joe Holmes, he's been very quiet over the years. He was on the Little Ain't Enough tour. Then I
right.
think he went to Ozzy's
Played with
band.
Ozzy, yeah.
Most
Osmosis
people
era.
most people don't realize he was with Ozzy for a few years.
Hmm.
They just assume that Zach Wilde was there from like '88 till
Whenever,
Gus
right.
G. No, Joe Holmes was there after the Roth gig, and Joe Holmes just put out new music within the past 2 weeks called a song called "Cross-Eyed Stare," which I think it has from Metallica and Mike Borden from Faith No More and Ozzy's band as well.
No kidding. Interesting.
So I guess he's still cool with all of his Ozzy friends because Robert Trujillo was originally with Ozzy before Metallica, or this is an old track that was laying around. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have any predictions for the new year for Dave as far as what we think we might see? I guess the only prediction is that there'll be nothing uniform, nothing that'll make sense, no big tours, maybe a corporate gig or two. Same old, same old.
I predict I would guess there'll be another 1 to 3 more videos like Panama that go up. I would guess, and nobody's told me this, I would guess that we're going to get a jump and like a dance the night away for that.
Huh.
And I think that we're going to see a handful of corporate gigs. I wouldn't be shocked if he has been doing corporate gigs and they just skated under the radar because no one's ever seen any video of that birthday party that he played in Cabo, Mexico.
Right. Right. The fact in this day and age that I guess if you have enough money, you can confiscate everybody's cell phone and everybody's going to follow along with it. So
Or at that Cabo, Mexico party, you make every single person going sign an NDA,
that
which
too.
the birthday boy did.
And for all you know, that could have been like 25 people.
It looked it looked like a few hundred. I know Coolio played at it. I know Cardi B also played at it. So it's not like Dave did a 90-minute or 2 hour show. I think he did three,
No.
four songs, got out.
Yeah.
And that that's the bonkers nature. And the guys who played in his band for that, two of the three have a lot going on. Like they're
Hmm.
not waiting for the phone to ring from Dave.
And those are
So Ryan Wheeler, the bassist music director of that era,
right.
he's
Right.
on tour with Shabuzi.
That's right.
And did Shabuzi just do SNL? I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, either way, that is a private plane flying artist, and Ryan's social media is really funny. He's somebody you should be following because he kind of has
Oh, I
this
do. On
cocky
Instagram.
character that he has going on that's not the real human being. And then
Yeah.
Francis is still drumming for Matthew Curry, who Ron Wixow was a fan of, and
Right.
Billy Walton Band. And oh, this is another funny one. Jake Fawn, who played lead guitar. Did you see you saw the St. Paul, Minneapolis Kiss show with Dave?
Yes, I did.
In
It was
20
right before shutdown. Yep. Yep.
So you saw Jake Fawn playing guitar? Well,
Yeah.
he has just joined the Bullet Boys.
Okay. A
Okay,
gig,
well,
a gig's a gig.
let's play devil's advocate here. How many bands did Ted Templeman produce besides those six Van Halen albums, after say 84?
I can tell you, I love one of them. Cheap Tricks woke up with a monster in '94.
Hmm.
The Bullet Boys records were what, late '80s? He did.
I think
We
it was
did the
something like 88.
first two. Did he do the third one? I can't recall, but um,
But it's a
um,
short list of people who
it,
Ted Templeman worked
yeah,
with.
yeah,
So he must have seen something in them besides Smooth Up in Ya.
yeah. I, yeah, I dug some of their stuff. Sure. Um, I was going to ask you one. Oh, getting back to Ryan Wheeler.
Yeah.
Listen, if Dave's calling him, Ryan is just too busy and making too much money. So Dave is without a music director, essentially.
So that's another one of my theories of what's going on because I know that Dave has reached out to different people, or his team, I should say, has reached out to people over the last year or two, going, "Hey, we're thinking of doing something. Are you available?" And different people on that team went, "I'm not available that week." And the way that Team Dave operates isn't like, "Okay, we'll come to your dates." It's just like, "Oh, they said no. Oh, okay. They,
Mm.
get someone else." I don't think Dave and his team have the patience to line up a new band.
No,
So
and I don't think Dave has the patience. I mean, I think if you're ever going to see him do public performances or private public, basically performing live again, it's going to be these one-off gigs. It's going to be corporate gigs. I mean, if he could get some sort of regular band going, he could do these fly-in gigs, every couple weekends as long as he wanted to. If he was going to be a part of some sort of Kings of Chaos sort of corporate thing, well, then or, to do corporate gigs, then you don't need your own band. Doing three or four songs, just a question of does he really want it? And I mean, at this point, I bring this up all the time, but it's not much. Listen, he's already cheapened his legacy enough as it is. So what's a few more things like this? I mean, he's never to me. Thing with Dave is that always it was, he was never that B level until he brought himself down to that B level. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, he definitely did it to himself where even if and disagreeing with me if you disagree, please. I don't want a yes on this. I even though A Little Ain't Enough was not a hit by conventional standards. That was him still going totally, I'm a star and doing things like a star and doing things big budget.
Right.
And your filthy little mouth with that, him going down to clubs, and they're not presenting it like it was the cool grunge way, but rather this is all we can get. And letting that image go out there, that was the beginning of the end for Star Dave. I don't
Well,
think
he
he
was
ever recovered from that.
he was also trying, if you read the reviews of that time, and certainly his look with the haircut. I mean, I have a tour program from that. Yeah, I mean, it was just with the black and white. If you look at the Your Little Enough video, he was, it was this artsy New York sort of thing that was getting away from everything previously, working with Nile Rodgers. And, that record tanked big time. And, he was done with his deal. The DLR band comes out in 98, the Diamond Dave record, and then it's nothing really but doing the greatest hits gigs until 2007.
But so many of the people that I'm not one of those people that calls Van Halen hair metal or anything like that, but I think it is fair to lump together solo Dave with Poison based on the fact that they toured together, they had MTV hits in the same era, blonde party guy
Well,
kind
he
of
was
thing.
competing against that.
Sure,
Van
but
Halen never. I guess you can say Van Halen sort of was with Hagar. Hagar. I mean, it was what the zeitgeist was. It was loud
yes.
guitars, everybody playing off of the template that Dave and Van Halen themselves put into gear in the late 70s, influenced all these guys who ended up forming bands that hit the Sunset Strip
Yeah.
81, 80, 81, 82 and blew up from there. But in my mind, they were always above that. They were the
Oh, for
catalyst for
sure.
it, but I never lumped them in with that stuff.
So I'm only lumping in from the casual people who are just like more hits driven, amphitheater going people. And Bret Michaels had very, very lean years
Oh,
of
sure.
95, 96, 97, but he was totally rebounded when Poison, I think, did its first arena reboot 80s extravaganza thing in 99 when they started doing. Then it was pretty much an annual thing for the next 10 years, 10 to
Right.
15 years. Maybe they'd take a summer off, but kind of like Vince Neil, where he would do the Motley Crue package, but then at the same time do solo gigs during the week or on off nights, that kind of a deal, which he still does. There was an opportunity for Dave to rebuild the whole thing. And there were kind of signs of that in 99 when he did some touring along, I think it was 99 when he toured alongside Bad Company for some shed dates, but he didn't stick with it. Where I'm going with that is let's say his voice never recovered. He still could have been a one of three or a one of two every summer, the way that REO Sticks and Don Felder
Well, or
or
the way Def Leppard and Motley Crue now, have been doing stadiums. I mean,
yeah,
not that Dave would ever get back to stadiums again, but I thought he was going to try to get back in that direction with him opening up for Kiss. That to me was like a
yes.
big that to me was like a big signal that, okay, we might not get new music, but we've got Dave active and doing the rock thing at least live somewhat seriously. And say what you want about who was playing what and what backing tapes, whatever, the backing vocals for Jump, whatever was going on there. That to me was a big signal and a surprise that he was going to be opening up for Kiss. And that was going to go a lot longer had there not been a shutdown.
Correct.
And so who knows where that could have gone? That could have been as much close to an annual thing. And if he was going to go out with Kiss like that, who's to say that he couldn't be the third act on a big stadium tour?
And we do know that he turned down the Motley Crue, Poison, Def Leppard extravaganza in that era. And we know we talked about probably 10 episodes ago about him turning down the John Mulaney Netflix thing of being the sidekick. And it does make you wonder how many opportunities did he turn down? Not necessarily why did he turn it down,
I want to
but
know why he turned it down. I mean,
it could have been
it's not all because of money.
what I assume is he doesn't want to do anything that he's not fully controlling the end product of.
Right. I totally agree. Yep.
And so he also doesn't want to be on camera. Um, A name that's come up a lot of times, David Krebs, original co-manager of Aerosmith, AC/DC, Ted Nugent. He'll ask me all the time, like, so what's going on with Dave in this? And then he tells me about his one time that he met with Dave in '78 at some festival, and he just thought that Dave was highly intelligent and he enjoyed the conversation. But Krebs's feeling is not really knowing DLR that well, is just he's image conscious because he doesn't look anything like the Golden God.
Mm. But he's, but to a degree, sure, he's image conscious, but then he's doing these videos on YouTube where he's wearing black leather pants, a black vest, and recent footage of him dancing around to the re-record of Panama.
Okay, you present a good argument right there. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes he seems like he's a guy who doesn't care and he just does whatever he wants
Yeah.
to make himself happy. And other times you just see a self-loathing
I will tell you this, I
person.
think given the weirdness and a lot of the things that he's done the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and also, of course, actually announcing that he's retiring,
Hmm.
that phone might not be ringing that much because people are just like, he's not going to come on this podcast. He's not going to do this. He's not, I mean, so if somebody gets a really bright and creative idea and tries to get to him, like Mulaney's cool talk show, that's like, I'm sure that's like, that doesn't happen all the time. And unfortunately, he turned it down. But I don't think there's that many opportunities for him anymore. I think at some point you just go, listen, we can go get Billy Idol to do this thing.
I disagree. I think the opportunities all the time come to his team. And the way that they've never once responded to one of my messages ever once, whether it was me asking for them to participate in the book, me telling them about unclaimed funds sitting there, nothing ever. Me telling them that I knew a secret that I wasn't supposed to know, they didn't even respond to that. That was within the last 6 months or so. They they are just playing defense at this point. They're not playing offense and looking for opportunities. I
Have
think
you
they're
ever
very careful on what they bring to Dave.
Have you ever gone back on those, gone back and looked if any of those unclaimed funds have been claimed? Because that was about 2 years ago you brought that to their attention. Wasn't there one like $200,000 out there or something?
I wouldn't say that much, but one of them was a Warner Music Group check. And so you're going to, how are the royalties not coming to him all these years later? He's been in that same exact house since, you
Well,
know,
nobody, of course, he doesn't get any of that stuff to his house. It goes to his accountant or it goes to whoever. I mean, y- as far as something in the mail, right? I mean,
yeah,
management or something. But y- either way, if you're Warner Brothers, you should be able to get shit to him.
I think they would know, okay, that's the house. Just throw it over the wall.
Right, throw it exactly.
Somebody who knows stuff, like this is getting really personal and into the weeds. Somebody told me that he's one of those people who changes his phone number a lot. And somebody who
He is.
used
I
to,
always got the impression he was a bit paranoid. Of
yeah,
course,
the
smoking that much dope will get you that paranoid.
well, this was a bonkers thing where somebody who used to work with him wanted to get Dave's number to try and make amends. So they reached out to another person who more recently worked with him. And they called the most recent cell phone number and a gardener like answered. And as in the gardener owned the phone now. So I think it's kind of like, I don't want this phone anymore. You take it. I think it was just a bunkers thing. Like, so I don't think that there's any logic. So going back to your question, I think we're going to see a couple of more of these things because he doesn't seem to do just one video or one image kind of thing. I think we'll get one or two more of these studio performance things when Tom thinks it's mixed well enough and the video cutter decides it looks good enough because it's not just a one take through with Panama. Like it opens up with a thing that's not the live performance, then it goes there, then it cuts during the solo to another thing. In other
Hmm,
words, it's not him playing for 2 minutes live.
right.
So I wouldn't be shocked if he went to that studio for the day and cut 5 of those.
That, yeah, that makes total sense.
And then I think that we will continue to get a random painting, uh, 2 or 3 at a clip, 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get 1 or 2 more of these bonkers things from the 90s of audio clips that are like, remember that whole I was in the desert doing drugs with Cindy Crawford and Chris Rock thing? You remember that?
God.
That's
Oh
that's what I
man.
think. We're just going to get more of the same and nothing that we want. What do you think?
I'm with you there, man. I mean, I will be the first to applaud and be very ecstatic if there's something that is that that makes sense, something that's concrete as opposed to these one-off mystery weird things that make this spur of the moment, fly by night, whatever you want to call it, lack of a better explainer for it. I mean, it's going to be more of the same. I got one last thing for you that I hadn't done in a while. I recently did this again, but um, DavidLeeRoth.com still exists. It's a
Yeah.
lot better than Van Halen's website, and it's an
Yeah.
interesting mix because first off, if you had to guess, what do you think the web traffic is on DavidLeeRoth.com a month?
Meaning the number of views?
The number of visitors, unique monthly visitors.
Uh, 50,000?
No, no, try about 6 to 7 thousand visitors a month.
That's it?
Yeah, so no one's going to that website that much. I mean, yeah, less than 10,000 most months. But what's interesting about it is that it is fairly updated, but it's in a really funny way. The homepage right away is a shot that looks like it's from the new Panama video. All the new videos go up there, right? Everything is up there.
Right.
Um, the homepage is there. Then when you go to the drop down menu, there's David Lee Roth art, YouTube, the Roth Project is still there, True Story, the Roth Show. He's got this section called Shorties, which is the YouTube shorts and stuff. And then what's really curious, if you go to the section called Back Pages, there's the wallpaper is the cool poster of which you sent me one, which I still love. The last tour, unless it isn't, with the Las Vegas tour poster. And then when you scroll down some, um, you've got the No Holds Barbecue. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping around here for a minute. Yeah, you've got the No Holds Barbecue, various links. That's all on the back pages. But then you go to tour. And this is hilarious. David Lee Roth rocks Vegas with the photo from that poster. Due to popular demand, 4 dates added, sold out. David Lee Roth. The image, that 30-second commercial is still up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's all updated, but nobody took this down. I mean, do you know what I mean? It's bizarre, as usual. I was just
It's
very surprised to see one, the website is still consistently updated. It's all the content. There's nothing on there that you're not getting anywhere else, but it is cool to see. But then the fact that there's even a tour tab with stuff from now going on, 4 years ago almost. It's the Las Vegas tour that wasn't the last tour,
yeah.
unless it isn't. And of course, the other funny thing is too is if you click, you can't click on contact. It says contact, but nothing. Nothing. It doesn't go anywhere.
I believe all of that. When I saw the press release on Alex's book, it was the same PR team that had handled Dave's Vegas residency, Salters, which was an old
Really?
school, expensive PR company, and that always made me
Hold
laugh
on, hold on a
because
second. The publicity team for Alex's book was the same that did Dave's Vegas residency that didn't happen.
yes,
Interesting.
and also has REO Speedwagon, or rather Kevin Cronin. Not common to see bands do that. They're not one of the more accessible PR companies out there. They're definitely an old school, hoping that they get you on 60 Minutes or Jimmy
Yeah.
Kimmel or Rolling
Well,
Stone.
it's interesting that what was that on Random House or whatever the big imprint that was that used a freelance publicist and contracted with somebody outside of the Random House publicist, which I mean, we do that. I mean, my company does that, but kind of a little surprised by that. But the fact that it's the same person I mean, that's not a coincidence, I don't think.
Yeah, so the whole Alex and I speak every day and we laugh like pirates. I think that they are in contact, that they are cool with each other. They just don't talk about certain things.
Right, but it brings me back around the fact that I really think that Dave saw this book ahead of way ahead of
Yes.
publication and was maybe surprised and happy and maybe if him and Alex still talk regularly. I got the impression in the book that him and Alex, just like that Dave over the years inferring that him and Alex were that close was the real thing. I mean, that's the way it read to me in Alex's book.
I believe that,
That
but
out
I
of
also
everybody, that
believe,
Dave was closer with Alex than he was with Eddie and Michael.
yeah, I believe that too, but I also believe is that thing when you make up a memory that never happened, do they call that the Mandela effect? I just imagine, oh, and I'm going to say allegedly 6 times, allegedly, with how documented of an alcoholic and pillhead Alex was at different junctures of his life, with the blur of touring, and then allegedly, with the amount of cocaine that David Lee Roth did in certain eras before cleaning up, and he's talked about that, that they imagine or hallucinate that a lot of things happened that maybe didn't happen in the sequence of events that things happen.
There's
But
revisionist history, then there's imaginary history.
yeah, that's where I'm going with all that. So when you hear the stories about how Ed and Alex would be sitting in the corner screaming at each other in Dutch and crying their eyes out and then loving each other and all that kind of stuff, who knows
But
what fueled all of that?
well, it was yeah. I mean, it was definitely a volatile relationship. I mean, he Alex mentions, and I think that might surprise a lot of people. Well, maybe not. It's been public knowledge for a long time. Just yeah, there was a lot of love, but creatively, all four of them, or at least three-fourths of them, because I think Michael just not that he wasn't involved in it, but I think Michael was smart enough to go, I'm just going to play Switzerland here and let
Yeah.
these crazies beat the shit out of each other. But he mentions it in Anderson the interview with Anderson Cooper. Alex made mention of the fact we fought all the time. I mean, and I'm sure a lot of that was fueled by various chemicals and alcohol and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's interesting because I think maybe that was sort of part of that dynamic too. It's like, all right, Dave and Eddie fought all the time. Dave fought with Alex and Eddie too, but in a weird way, I got the I don't know how that whole dynamic may have worked out, but I think Dave may have been sort of a buffer sometimes as well. And when you're partying like crazy, and I mean, maybe and you're on tour all the time, and maybe I mean, Eddie was certainly a lot more shy. Like here's the
Yes.
deal. Here's the deal. If you had a total, all the groupies, all three of them banged, I'm telling you, Alex and Dave were way up there, and Eddie was way in the bottom because he was very shy and he was
Yeah.
noodling on his guitar all the time. Dave and Alex were swinging from chandeliers, banging groupies, and Eddie Anderson's bringing all these people back. And, where's Eddie? Oh, he's locked in his room playing guitar. Well, God bless it. Helped create six amazing records. Although I'll go back to the fact that so much, I mean, we talked about this before. It could be a whole other episode, but I think that creativity, uh, a lot of it because of various chemicals and drinking, certainly I think tailed off. And also the workload was so crazy. All right, you guys
Yes.
just got off the road. You got 3 months to write a third record. What?
Yeah, all those albums happened in a 7 year period.
Pretty
Because if you
crazy.
think about the first record, it came out in 78, but it was really made in 77. And, the 1984 album, okay, you could say 1985. So you can say it was an 8 year period that they did those six albums and world tours and bonkers
And
that,
so much of those first six records came from what, 30 odd songs, 20 some odd songs,
yeah,
between 20 and 30 songs that were written between 74 and 77.
and covers.
And
But
covers, sure. And covers,
But
yeah.
going back three topics, if you don't mind, a rude interruption here.
No,
With the Alex Book PR company, the company that he hired, I can only count 6 interviews that he did.
it's all you
And
needed to
okay,
do.
so this is what I count. There was the Anderson Cooper CNN, there was Billboard, there was NPR, there was Rolling Stone, there was the live stream thing that you got through the Book Talks people when you paid for the book, and then there was Chris Jericho's podcast. I'm not going to say which one of those is totally different than all the others.
I didn't listen to I
read,
didn't
read,
listen to Chris Jericho's podcast.
yeah,
I didn't get around to listening to that. Was that good?
um, I've been a big fan of Chris Jericho, and then I've been critical of him, alternating because he's done some things that are questionable. But in this particular interview, he's a diehard fan of Van Halen. Chris Jericho named one of his cruises after a lyric in It's Showtime by David Lee Roth. He's that big of a fan. But you could tell he's nervous that he's like fake laughing at things that are not funny, and then Alex is fake laughing at things that are not funny.
Huh.
And that so the part when he said, we have 3 or 4 albums. Ha 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 ha. Like that wasn't a joke. It was that
Right,
kind of a
right.
thing. And that just bugged me so much. So
Hmm.
it was definitely unique from the other ones because he was such a diehard. But I think it was Alex steamrolling him with the same facts that we were getting on everything else.
I'm still bummed. The Van Halen news desk should have got something, even an email Q&A. It doesn't have to be an audio or video, just an
Yes.
email Q&A. Shoot the publicist a bunch of questions. It's easy to do. Have it back in a couple days, whatever. I mean, the questions will be pre-approved, whatever it would be. I mean, something they should have got. For goodness
Then
sakes. They got,
the
yeah, they got the
amount,
exclusive on the very beginning, the forward or whatever it was, right?
yeah.
Way early on. And that's fantastic and bravo, but they really should have got an interview because they should have got something more.
Yeah, so I think that the media sources that they went to for this book, unless there's more interviews coming and we don't know it,
No,
was
it's done. It's done. The first off, what they did, I mean, that publicity firm cost very high 5 figures a month.
yes.
And yeah, and you know, the book already came out, the fans got it. There's no point to doing publicity, in the new year. I mean, it's done. Maybe there's an interview out there that I don't know why it wouldn't have been published, but there's not gonna be a whole new round of interviews, I don't think. I'd be shocked.
But for him to only do 6 interviews, including the book VIP live stream, so it's really 5. And Howard Stern, not one of them. That's bonkers to me that whether or not, and we were talking off mic, I was
Yeah.
saying that Howard Stern's reach is not what it once was. But when Wolfgang did his exclusive, it was for Howard Stern. Howard Stern is one of the longest running Van Halen supporters and fans in the history of mainstream media. Fact. He tried to
Yeah.
get original lineup with Dave to reunite for the Private Part soundtrack. He's that big
Right.
of a fan. His show, he was replaced by David Lee Roth on terrestrial radio. It should have been a
Right.
Stern
Right.
thing.
Right.
It should have been a Rick Beato. I think more people watch Rick Beato. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, yeah. His videos are great. I mean, and he gets huge traffic and views.
Yeah, more people watch George Benson interviews with him than The Tonight Show. More people watch a Marcus Miller interview with Rick
Right,
Beato
right,
than The Tonight Show. That should have been a Rick Beato interview.
right.
And I think that, yes, it was a bestseller technically, but it could have gone so much further if, let's say, he didn't do NPR, Billboard, Rolling Stone. Let's say his 6 were Rick Beato, Howard Stern, Van Halen News Desk. That was 3 of them. I think the book sales would have been double or triple.
I don't know if it would go that far. I mean, I would bet you a large percent of people who bought that book or are buying it now for the holidays because it is front and center at Barnes and Noble and other places. It's out there. And, there's a huge amount of people who are Van Halen fans, but don't check out the Van Halen news desk, might not know who Rick Beato is. I think, there was so much huge publicity around it. It was hard to miss.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm happy with what they did, with the exception of the fact I wish they should have done more. I wish they did more. They could have strung it out over, a period of a couple, throughout way into November.
Okay,
You got
what
to
about
give you,
60
What?
Minutes.
What's
Should
that?
60 Minutes have been one of the 6 interviews?
No, no, 60 minutes. No. But I mean, I thought well, was the Anderson Cooper thing? That's not a podcast. But I agree with
Uh,
you. I think as far as what they did, I'm fine with, but they should have done more, right? I mean, yeah, they should have done Rick Beato. They should have done Howard Stern. Something, like an email Q&A for the Van Halen news desk at least.
yeah. So I think that the reason I talk about those outlets is because somebody who watches or listens to a Rick Beato thing is a person with an attention span. Same thing with Howard, same thing with Van Halen news desk.
Yeah.
Whereas your Anderson Cooper is more your quick sound bites, fast food, just looking for the scandal, and that's that. And people who are still Alex Van Halen fans 40 years later are people with attention spans, people who are loyal. And they didn't go the loyalty route with this book or this campaign. This wasn't a book for the diehards, and this wasn't a PR campaign for the diehards. That's where I was going.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be real curious to know. I haven't looked. I should look on books. Haven't looked. I meant to look on BookScan before this. I mean, the sales were huge on this thing. It was a New York Times bestseller. I would have been real curious to know what the pre-orders were on this thing because when that thing, remember, it was about 6 months in advance. Van Halen News Desk got that thing. The press release went out everywhere. It was like, oh my God, does a book come from Alex? And October seemed so far away, and it just kept building and building and building. And I think if you were to substitute any of those, yeah, Howard Stern instead of Anderson Cooper, yeah, Rick Beato instead of NPR. NPR seemed to be a weird choice,
Yeah.
um, given the audience. I mean, it was almost like you were looking for some sort of respectability there that you didn't need to get.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to NPR not as much as I used to, but I might be a rarity among Van Halen fans. I don't know.
No, I don't think that NPR is where I go to for my music. I know how great the tiny stage and
Tiny
tiny
desk
desk.
concerts are,
I know how
right?
great that is, but as much as I like 311, the 311 Tiny Desk concert's very uncomfortable to watch. Fish Tiny Desk concert, very uncomfortable to watch. And it's just not the right setting for it. The interviewer was not a nerdy person that would know what Sonrisa Salvaje is.
Right.
Uh, and none of these interviewers, except Chris Jericho, would know Sonrisa Salvaje, in my humble opinion. So, hey,
Speaking of those, and this would be a good thing to get out on, I guess, but was digging through some 45s because I got my turntable fixed, and I still have my Yankee Rose 45, if I remember correctly, backed with Shy Boy, but I have
yeah,
the Going Crazy 45 backed with the Spanish version, Local Color, whatever the hell, I can't even remember what
yeah,
the hell. I don't know.
Loco del Color. Yeah.
Yes, I meant to put on my desk here, but I was like, I forgot I had those.
I didn't know that they put the Spanish language as the B-side on it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I completely forgot. I mean, I hadn't looked in that box in a long time, so I play a lot of vinyl around here, but the 45s I hadn't pulled out in a while. So
I commend you on that one. So, you know, the last bit is Sammy. I know he has a new record in the works, or
studio record?
yeah,
Good for him.
or at least he was talking about that. And he seems to do an album every 2 years, and he's consistent. I I would imagine there's more demand for him to do more touring, but it's the kind of situation where he has to go, do I feel like doing this? But
Right,
if
right.
if that was the last touring he ever did, man, did he. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he's doing the Vegas residency. What am I
Yes.
talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah. I was going to mention that. Yeah, the Vegas Red Sea. Hey, give Sammy props to no one's surprise. He managed to keep himself in the news during Alex's whole press run and book thought. Every time I saw a headline or a story with a quote with Sammy, I always heard "Wars, why can't we be friends?" playing in my head. So
Yeah, Alex really should. He really needs to make amends there, or let Sammy make amends.
no, he doesn't. No, because you know what? This is hilarious. And it's good fodder for us. I mean, I don't know. It just cracks me up to no end because Sammy's almost groveling for God's sakes, and he doesn't, it's just, and I believe he's sincere about it, and maybe it's frustrating. Of course, it would be really frustrating to Sammy, but I just think the thing is just oddly weird and funny, man.
I laughed about it until I saw Alex's comment where he criticized Sammy's tour, saying it's not a real tribute. And when I saw that, I just went, "Oh, okay. Sammy did something wrong in Alex's mind that he'll never get over."
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you go,
I'm sure it's a business thing. I mean, they've been dark to Sammy. Eddie was before he passed. I mean, for such a long time.
"Get over it."
Yeah.
Everybody had a
Life is
happy ending.
yeah.
Get over it. Just go, "Hey, I don't like you. I don't have to like you, but thank you for the years of working together." I was recently reading about Johnny Marr has that kind of relationship with Mike Joyce from the Smiths, and it happened because they ran into each other twice at different Smiths related events, and they wanted to pay tribute to Andy Rourke, who died. I think both of them will forever hate Morrissey, and I get it. It's not
Oh
easy
yeah,
to
that's
like.
understandable.
Yeah, it's not easy to like Morrissey. But Johnny Marr and Mike Joyce had this thing where I went, "We're probably going to run into each other. We'll just say hi and we'll laugh and say, 'Good to see you.' And then we'll move on."
Yeah.
And that's it. We're not going to be friends. We understand we're going to have some business things to sign off on for the rest of our lives. And that's it. And I'd like to see Alex be mature enough to go, "I hate your guts, but thank you. I'll sign whatever I need to sign. Thank you." And he
Yeah.
won't even do that.
I mean, I'm still surprised the way we had a lot of other lead singers in the band. Dude, you had platinum and number one records with freaking with Sammy. I mean, the way
Yeah.
he was just dismissed that completely, that to me was the one of the biggest, most surprising, most blatant that shouted out to me. I was just like, whoa. You know, the two things that surprised me the most about Brothers and was so complimentary to Dave, right?
Hmm.
And how just really, I was very surprised at that. And yeah, I mean, he had some rightful, rightful criticism to Dave, but it was nothing that wasn't surprising. If you're a fan and you've been following this for so long, yeah, Dave wanted the spotlight all the time. I mean, that's nothing
Yeah.
new. But so that was two things, how complimentary he was. And then the other part was the fact that just, you know, I mean, he could have just completely dismissive of everything else. I mean, if he mentioned Gary Sharon in there and not Sammy, I would not have been surprised, you know?
He did
But
mention Van Halen 3 in the book. So
yeah.
that's technically mentioning Gary
Oh, and
Sharon.
also he didn't mention um we were talking about this last episode about who wasn't in the thank yous.
Oh, Michael,
Michael was not in
Sammy,
the thank you. Yeah.
but thankfully Ginger Baker was.
I weird, right? I know.
Yeah, yeah, you had the paragraph for the story about John Bonham almost punching him, but thankfully he thanked, John Bonham and Led Zeppelin, thank
Right.
the guy that you never met who, in a positive way, but don't thank your business partner who contributes to getting at you out of debt after your second divorce, why thank him? That leads me to the whole, and I've talked about this publicly, like I write this book about Dave. It kind of makes me like Van Halen a little bit less, learning how things work. And then I get the copyright strike on YouTube because of Alex's book publisher thing, and that demonetizes me. I like Van Halen a little bit less. I need to find reasons to like Van Halen again. I
Yeah.
need that. If somebody can help with that, that'd be
It to
great.
to me it all comes back down to music, man. I mean, we'll always have that. They make it so difficult, right?
Yeah.
But the but to me it's still those first six records, man. I hear something that blows me away that I love. They're just so far and away great. And I do like a lot of the stuff with, I went back a couple weeks ago and like really dug into the Balance record. I mean, sometimes I think parts of that record, there's some really good stuff on there, but man, I mean, I'll put on Van Halen too, and I'll just be like, yeah, this is the way it was supposed to be. You know what I mean? It's like, at least we'll always have that.
At least we'll always have that. That will be the title of this episode.
I got,
At
I
least
got a
we'll
few
always have
things.
that. Yeah. So,
It's good to know to say to get out of here on.
yeah. So I don't expect anything new or exciting to come out of Dave or Van Halen in 2025. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be shocked and see that they start to release video from the archives, and they've combed through the archives, and we get all this Eddie stuff that we've never heard. I'm not holding my breath. You?
I just no. I mean,
No.
I would love some Dave clarity and some sort of clarity as far as what's being released and actual real releases and things. I mean, put up the rest of the songs from the mythical quote unquote John 5 sessions. We got half a record
Mhm.
so far, right? Maybe I don't think that's all that was recorded.
No.
Um, I mean, I would I had I had a daydream the other day and I was thinking about this during this call the other day. I was thinking, man, I would love to hear demos from A Little Ain't Enough, right? Because
There
that
were
was one with
so
so
many,
many other, and I'd love to hear what didn't
yeah,
make that record.
so many songs were written because there was so many outside contributors. I'm with you right there.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear official soundboards or properly mixed things from that tour.
right.
I would love to see the Skyscraper Pro shot that Billy Sheen has confirmed. Actually, no, he confirmed the Eat 'em and Smile one exists, but somebody else said that Skyscraper exists. And plus, there's the Japanese one that was filmed pro shot,
two
multi-angle.
two huge misses on Dave's part at a time when VHS concerts were all the were regular things. Kiss did them. Van Halen did Live Without a Net. You mean to tell me there could not have been a VHS back to back of the Eat 'em and Smile tour and then the Skyscraper tour? Are you fucking kidding me? That would have made so much sense back then. That would have sold crazy.
Okay, so my theory on that, and sorry to drag this episode out, you'll tell me to stop talking after this. So Jay Leno, I believe he's either done zero comedy specials or one comedy special ever. And his logic why was, when I do that, I've given away all of my material. Do you know how much money I could make on the road doing that same material every night? That's what he had told other comics. I'm wondering if it was Dave going, if I put out the show, then I've given away all my banter and surprises, and I can't repurpose it on all the future tours.
I'm not buying it. If it is, it's incredibly stupid.
He's never done anything stupid before.
I mean, it could have been. I can't believe it didn't occur to him to do something like that. I can't believe nobody at Warner Brothers was going, especially at least by Live Without a Net came out what, 86?
Yes.
So at least like the Skyscraper tour afterwards, it's like, let's do this. I mean, maybe it would have been I mean, who knows? Maybe it was a money thing. Maybe the money was there's no big advance. The royalties weren't good on VHS concerts. Maybe it was, how do you pay the band? I don't know. Who knows? But the fact that nobody's ever talked about that, what a big miss that was, but us,
But
means it would never even came close to existing. You mean to tell me that there was not a product manager out there at Warner Brothers and went, we've got to have a VHS concert for this? Kiss is doing Animalize. They're doing, I
yeah,
mean, that thing sold crazy. I mean,
yeah,
it was, I mean, every hard rock band, Aerosmith had the Pump videos. Everybody was putting out videos. There
I
wasn't even a video.
never,
There wasn't even a video compilation for Eat 'em and Smile.
I never thought of it that way, except there
It
was
was a
one.
stupid miss as far as what product could have been, as far as what all
Yeah,
these other bands were doing at the time. Would have been easy money, and all that footage was there.
I'm pretty sure there was a Crazy from the Heat video comp, and it's on his YouTube with added in commentary. That was something that he put up about 4 years ago, where it shows the video and then it pauses, like, look at me on the left and look at me on the right. And he's at some burger truck in LA, if that makes sense. I know I've seen this. This isn't a Mandela effect thing that's still on his YouTube out of nowhere, and it's like 25 minutes long. And the Jerry who co-wrote the Crazy from the Heat movie is in the background as the bartender.
I'll have to, I don't remember that. I'll have to go back and I'll have to dig through all those YouTube videos and hopefully I won't get waylaid watching 50 rides from the 100 rides from whatever Love Train again, like I always do. So, and on
Well,
that note,
on that note, thanks to anyone still listening. Thanks to Steve for giving us the time and the commentary and not telling me to shut up that much.
yeah,
And nothing but yeah.
thank you everybody for hanging in there with us. So it's been a marathon sometimes.
Look at all the people here tonight.